And he told me something very important that I've never forgotten. And this is coming from a genocide survivor. He said that the most important thing you could have in your life is education. He said, because that is one thing that no one could take from you.
Shana Bishlomo Waipshana, and welcome to episode 72 of the Assyrian podcast. Peter here, and I am excited to be back with you once again to share a conversation that I had with my dear friend Joseph Danavi. Michael Scott from The Office once said, "Make friends first, make sales second, make love third, in no particular order." But for reals, I take my friendships seriously, investing the time and energy to cultivate a real connection. I truly believe that iron sharpens iron, and as you'll hear in this episode, social interaction is crucial to our lives. I flew to Chicago on the Thursday evening of Memorial Day weekend to attend the third annual King Ashur-nasir-pal Dinner Gala at the Oriental Institute in Chicago. The event was hosted by the Assyrian Aid Society Chicago chapter. My first stop post-flight was to Joe's home that he shares with his wife Renya in the West Loop of Chicago. There we shared delicious takeout, lemon chicken from the popular Greek Islands restaurant. We washed down dinner with unadulterated Arab, but the biggest treat of the night was when Joe turned on his LP turntable and played the nationalistic song Khazade by Iwan Agassi via a newly unsealed vinyl record. The interview would take place later on that weekend on a still Sunday evening within the confines of an exposed brick room that the Danavis use as an office. Unapologetically, you'll hear a lot about GISHRU, the impact it has on both of our lives and of our fellow participants. We'll talk about his personal connection to the Assyrian Genocide of 1915, his thoughts on Assyrian advocacy and community empowerment. But what struck me the most were his closing remarks to all of you listeners around the globe. Lastly, support for this podcast comes from Tony Kalogerakis and the injury lawyers of Illinois and New York. If you know anyone that has been in a serious accident, please reach out to Tony Kalogerakis. Tony has been recognized as a top 40 lawyer and a rising star by Super Lawyers publication and has obtained multiple multi-million-dollar awards. Tony can be reached at injuryrights.com or 847-982-9516. And now, here's Joe. Joseph, I want to thank you for coming on this week's episode of the Assyrian podcast.
Basim Arawa, Peter. It's always a pleasure to be in your company, but specifically, it's a huge honor to be on the Assyrian podcast. I really cherish this opportunity.
So Joe, on GISHRU's website, and for those who don't know what GISHRU is, go into that, explain what GISHRU is, but you're listed as the co-founder.
GISHRU started as an idea of bridging the diaspora with the homeland. We had seen at the time, it was a tumultuous time in our nation's history. We had the liberation of Iraq and in the foreshadowing the start of this organization. And so we thought it was ripe for the time to connect our people that have pretty much grown up most of their life, if not their entire life in the diaspora, to get them connected with the homeland before it's too late. We all know the theory of the melting pot in the diaspora, 2 to 3 generations before we really start losing our culture. And we thought this was a critical time in our nation to bridge that divide, not only in distance, but also their connection with the homeland.
So how many years have you been going as a part of GISHRU?
So my first year I was in probation. I wasn't part of the GISHRU trip. I was just brought on to provide some advice on how to form this organization. My second year as a GISHRU director, it was in 2013 when I was able to first in my life visit the homeland.
What year was GISHRU founded?
It was an idea that was worked upon since 2008, if I'm not mistaken. But because we were growing and it was expanding, we became formally an organization in 2012.
What would you say to those who observe what GISHRU does, by way of social media, Instagram, and let's say all GISHRU does is go to the homeland, enjoy themselves for 2 weeks, and come back home to their comfortable lifestyle?
It's difficult, Peter. Truly, it's difficult because you're trying to take an experience that is 3D. No, 4D. You're trying to take an experience that is on so many different dimensions, a spectrum of emotions, really a lifetime of experiences, and try to put it on a social media post, in a picture, a clip. You can't do it. And so that's why the closest thing you could get to a snapshot of what we do is just talking to somebody that's been there. Because no post, no 140 character, no clip can really truly do justice to what this life-changing experience is. We tell you, you were with us for the past 2 years that you embarked on this trip. It really is a roller coaster, and we want it that way. We want you to experience the homeland because that's exactly what it is for our people there too. It's a roller coaster. We have hope, we have pride, but we also there's disappointments. There's need. GISHRU is that crash course in being an Assyrian in the homeland.
Who are some of the partners on the ground that you work with to set up your itinerary, security, logistics?
It goes without saying that GISHRU would only be an iota, a figment of one's imagination, without the coordination, the support of our partner organizations in the homeland. Prishait is specifically the Chaldo-Assyrian Student Youth Union, Khuyada. They are the largest Assyrian student and youth organization in Atra. The Assyrian Aid Society of Iraq juggle a lot in North Iraq. Not only do they, as you know, provide charitable distributions, they help restore infrastructure within our areas. But one of their small tasks is they help coordinate our trip. And of course, Assyrian Democratic Movement, they really help with the coordination amongst the different governmental agencies in North Iraq. As you know, it's really fragmented. Just one specific example I have to say is that during our last trip, we were told it would be impossible for our participants to be able to go into liberated Ninwa Plains because of the strict visa requirements that Iraq does compared to what the KRG. But of course, Rabbi Yonadam Kenna was able to get us like an 11th hour green light before a trip. We told our participants that it was tentative when even my co-partner, Suzy Yona, was telling people, just get it out of your minds. We're not going to be able to go see Baghdad. But we had an 11th hour green light from Rabbi Yonadam. He was able to talk to General Jabouri, who was in charge of the Ninwa Plain area, and we were able to get in. But this just goes into how really complex and complicated the organization of this trip is, because we're so used to dealing with Western procedural protocols. Exactly. And then we are so used to dealing with that here in the diaspora, and then we go try to organize this 2-week trip. It's very daunting because that is not how things work there. So without these partners, it wouldn't be a possibility. The GISHRU would not exist.
Why is it that you partner only with the Assyrian Democratic Movement? For the listeners out there, the Assyrian Democratic Movement is also known as ZOA.
It's because we're selfish, really. We want an organization that's already well established on the ground. They have connections with government. They have offices or people stationed in all the areas that we go to. So it's unparalleled. There's really no other organization that does that politically besides the Syrian Democratic Movement. I mean, they're just ubiquitous everywhere in the homeland. And so if you're an organization that's starting out and you want to take people from the diaspora and you want to make sure this continuity of our partnership in all the areas that we go to, tangible partner, there's simply no other organization. So it's simply a logistical issue, nothing political. But that doesn't mean that we have not become supporters of the ADM because of what we've seen there. But that's a separate topic. Yeah.
What would you say to those participants who have embarked on GISHRU's journey? What would you say to them who want to go back a second, a third time, but without GISHRU? Where is their place going back to the homeland?
We want to be that entry, the opening experience for them. We want to spark that desire. So if you go a second time without GISHRU, we've already fulfilled our mission. I mean, not completely, because we do expect a lot more from our participants than just to go to Assyria again. But for us, that would be an honor, because we want to make it tangible, a tangible idea, something fathomable that, I'm going to go to Atra next year. And I have a 2-week vacation. I'm going to go to Atra. Why not? We want that to be doable, something that's a casual thinking in our population, which, as you know, is not there. Who wants to go on a 2-week, using their 2-week time or 1-week time of vacation to Assyria? Not many people do. To us, that's accomplishment, but it goes much more than that. We don't want you to go there just for vacation. We don't want you to go there just to visit. We want you to go there to embark on a project. We want you to go there to continue that hope for our people there. Not only for the people there in the homeland, but also for our people here that vie for a sustainable Assyria.
Oh, I want to ask you about your feelings, and I'm going to paint this picture because I experienced it as well. This year going to the homeland, this was my second year. My first year was 2018, and there was a gentleman that I met, a peer in Nahla, one of the villages, the Assyrian villages in northern Iraq. A few months before we embarked on the 2019 trip, I find out that he has left. He is, by way of a fiancé visa, he has immigrated to Australia, to Sydney, Australia. You've been going back for 5-6 years. How does it feel when you've met someone years ago and then you come back and you find out that they've left the homeland?
It's a complex feeling because, first and foremost, I live in the diaspora. It's difficult for me to judge someone that is also going to do the same, even if it's not something that we want, but I cannot judge them. But what it does tell me, and when I go back and I see this loss of especially our young people, is that there's a lot of work to be done. These people are leaving because they don't see a future in their homeland. Why is that? For a lot of reasons. It's a myriad of different situations that are causing our people to leave. In the North Plain, when I see people that have left, we know it's from a security standpoint. They don't trust the security services there, be it the Peshmerga, be it the Iraqi forces from what happened after ISIS. It's really hard to regain our people's trust when they were abandoned on the onslaught of ISIS. In the northern regions, it's economic. Our people are smart. They really do value education. They're the top in their classes. They are remarkable students. But when you're graduating and you're getting top honors and you're unable to find jobs, and then you're seeing your classmates that are of a less caliber than you are, just because they're Kurdish, they're able to get jobs. It makes you lose hope. Am I going to be fighting this discrimination for the rest of my life? And then, of course, some of the people that we know that have left have children. So they see it in their children. Like, do they want to raise their children in a society like that where they're disadvantaged regardless of their capabilities? But it tells me that we have a lot of work to do, not only for a security standpoint, but also economic, and then human rights as well. So there's a huge need.
When I came back to America, obviously people are asking me what my feelings were, how I saw the Assyrians there, my interactions with them, the possibility of one day returning. One of the things that was most hurtful was when I would meet youth in the homeland, and they were surprised that, one, I knew how to speak Assyrian, that I can decently read and write in Assyrian. That was their surprise. It was hurtful, though. It's as though Assyrians in the West have either come to the melting pot or they've forgotten about their brethren in the homeland. What is your answer to that, or what is your response to those Assyrians that live in the homeland about Assyrians that are living in the West?
Peter, you can't take this personally. I know what you're saying, that how can they immediately judge anyone from the diaspora as not having a good foundation within Assyrian, be it the language, be it the culture. But you have to understand where they're coming from. And I know you do. You've been there. They have lost. They don't have a connection with us. They don't have a tangible connection with us in the diaspora. Even in the age of social media, we don't have a good connection with them, period. We are in our own world. Even in our advocacy circles, there's new movements within Assyrian advocacy. To this day, it's unfortunate to say that it's still not connected with our people back home. We are not on the same page. We do not have synergy. And this is continuing with our organizations, with our advocacy movements, with our youth groups. It's just not connected with the homeland. And so coming from them, yes, they question, and rightfully so, because we have not made that connection with them. And I know we've been talking about GISHRU, but this is a great plug, because that's exactly what GISHRU is there for, is to fill in that void, to be that bridge, so it is synergistic.
Joe, when you come back here, coming back from a GISHRU trip, and the community is asking you, what did you see there? Who did you interact with? How are our people there? What do you tell them?
It's a very simple message, profound, but I also am known to repeat myself, because it's a very important message to have our community realize that it's a love that I have never seen before. There's a need that is great, and our window is closing. 3 simple points. You'll find love there, a love from your community that you've never ever seen, even within your own families. A need that is great there because you've seen disasters from millennia on our people there, that we have now become such a fragment of a society there in terms of, again, like we talked about before, in terms of security, in terms of economy, in terms of education. That is the message I relay. But of course, it's a message of hope as well, because these are things that we can fix.
Recently, I was just having a conversation with an Assyrian gentleman in Chicago. He's been in Chicago for 40 years. In the conversation, he said, I have donor fatigue. And this is a reality with some of our people. And I don't know if it's donor fatigue. It partially is. And I think partially there's a small minority of people in our community that give. He went on to say that, I have donor fatigue. Why don't they, and when he refers to that, he means those that are living in the homeland, let's just get them out of there. What? And I couldn't respond to him because I probably would have said something very negative to him.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't find the words to respond back to him in a very pleasant way. What is your comment to that? Is this a sentiment that you think people share, that let's just get them all out of there?
Well, it's not just that. You touched upon donor fatigue, and I would see it more as a distraction, right? I think it's donor distraction. And it's based on not having. I keep going back to the same message, but it's important to repeat. It's okay to be redundant when it's a message that speaks the truth. Is that we don't have, a lot of our community does not know what's going on in the homeland. So it's donor distraction. When you're getting pummeled from every side of people asking for money, and of course sometimes it is. Most of the times it is for a reasonable cause, but it's also a side effect. It's also a symptom of us not being synergistic. Like our organizations are not talking to each other. Our communities are not connected. We have this divide amongst this generation between those that live in the homeland and those that live in diaspora. And I even said before that, GISHRU is also a bridge amongst the diaspora as well. We're divided in the diaspora. So this donor fatigue, this donor distraction is just a symptom of us not being connected, and we're not collaborating. We're all living in our own ivory towers, and we all think our organization is important. And there is an elitist type of sentiment amongst some of the advocacy circles as well. So yeah, it's not their fault, right? It's our job. And you touched upon our people leaving, and better for them just to leave, and that just they have not seen the homeland. I don't think there's one person that has seen the homeland, that's experienced the homeland, that said, yeah, let's just get everyone out there. No, our land is so beautiful. And you know what's even more beautiful than our land? Our people living in our land there. And when you see that site, when you go to Bedouin and you see our people living there, it gives you that tangible history of what your grandparents looked like when they were there. And it's something that you want to preserve and you want to continue.
How do you feel about the diaspora, this generation, especially in the United States? Because you and I live in the United States. Do you see as language being threatened? Do you see, is there a lack of empathy out there?
I don't think we see anything original within our community in terms of this threat of assimilation. I don't think we're immune to what the Irish or the Italian when they first came over into this country. If we take a look at what's happened to their descendants, we can see that they're very much well assimilated within the American culture, and very little of them know, besides having maybe Italian sounding or Irish sounding last names. They don't speak the language, or they know very little of it. And when they go visit Italy, they're just like us, tourists, not really connected to their what was once a homeland. So our future is not original. I mean, if we in the diaspora, if we continue this way, I think the forces of assimilation in the West is far too great for any community, especially ours that is this small, to fight.
How can we curb assimilation?
Having living roots in the homeland. I think us having living roots in the homeland and making sure it has a future there could at least provide hope for our nation. If we don't have a land which is ours, if we don't have school systems which are ours, if we don't have a de facto government which is ours, it makes this very, very difficult to have a nation. Because we know what the threat is of assimilation in the West.
When you come back from GISHRU, and you've gone many times, what are the top 3 pressing projects or top 3 takeaways that you have, where when you come back and you talk to people here and they ask you, what is the biggest need? Give me the top 3 biggest needs.
It's hard when you have if you have 100, it's hard to pick 3 because every one of them is so important. But I'm going to give a little bit of an uplifting side of it, and not just to make it more, not to just make a positive point out of this, but something that's I think is extremely crucially necessary for us as a community. I really think the most important thing is us having a stronger connection. I know it sounds cliche, but it's not. We need to connect with our people in the homeland. I think that's number 1. We need it, and they need it, and our nation needs it. And I think that also spurs a lot of collaboration. Projects are in sync with their needs, and it's not top down, but it's bottom up, and it provides a good outlook on our future. So I think one of the biggest needs actually is not a monetary thing. It's not a resource thing. It's just a connection. We need a stronger connection between us. 2 and 3, I think, kind of fall in line is just economically. The people there need jobs. Assyrians need jobs in the homeland, be it in the Nineveh Plain or in the KRG, where the majority of our people do live right now in Iraq. Economic opportunity is very difficult to come by. And that's for all assortment of reasons, and it's not just specific to our people. It's just how the government is after the crisis with ISIS and the massive rebuilding of Mosul and Nineveh Plain. It's our people are falling through the cracks. So, and also in the KRG, where there's discrimination going on against our people.
KRG being
the Kurdistan region government. Yeah, I mean, there's active discrimination against our people there for finding jobs. And as you know, but maybe the audience does not know, is that close to 80% of all Iraqis work for the government. So the government is the main job source for people. So when there's active discrimination within the government, you can see how difficult it is for Assyrians to find jobs.
Tell me about where you were born and raised.
Chicago, Illinois. That's where I was born.
Specifically Chicago? I mean, was there a neighborhood?
Well, yeah, I mean, I grew up, I was born in Chicago, but as most suburbans try to do, and we just say we're from Chicago, but specifically Skokie. I grew up in Skokie for part of my childhood. The rest, my dad was transferred to the Netherlands, Holland, so we lived there for a couple of years, and then we were fortunate to return back to Chicago, and we lived in grew up in the Palatine neighborhood at that point.
Okay. So growing up in Skokie, obviously you're surrounded by an Assyrian community, civic, social, religious.
Yeah.
How was that growing up with so many Assyrians around you?
I had a very big family, even if we weren't related. It's one of the hallmarks of being Assyrian is that no matter where you are, if you see another Assyrian, they're your family. And so growing up in Skokie, like everyone was family. I was calling everyone my cousins when I was growing up. When I was a little kid, I had no idea if they were our cousins or not. I consider everyone my cousin. It's a really nice, nurturing environment to grow up in.
I think in my opinion, every Assyrian activist, there's a moment in their life where they decide or they take it upon themselves to work for the nation, and each to his or her own. At what point in your life did you realize that you need to take this calling upon yourself?
When I was in university, for sure. And it was more of a comparative kind of analysis type of coming to terms with what we needed as a nation. I saw how the Jewish community at my university was so advanced. They had a strong civic organization on campus. Another thing, they had a return to a homeland trip that was fully subsidized and paid for by philanthropists in their community. And so seeing this firsthand at a university level, I realized the great need that we have in our community, but also something that didn't have to be original. Because, other communities are doing it, so we just need to emulate it.
Right.
And
it's
so
about innovating on an idea.
Yeah,
or tailoring it to our community's needs.
Exactly. It's seeing something else that's positive in another community and being like, yes, we could also apply this to our own community. Not everything has to be original. Not every innovator is original. They're taking their ideas from something, either from nature, or some other parallel environment. So same for us, it's easier. Look how many other diaspora-based communities are there. And what they're doing, and what we could do to do it, apply it for our own people. And so I was at the university. I saw what this community was doing, and I was like, let's do this for our own community. We don't have to be original.
Where did you go to college?
University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign.
You were involved in student government there?
Yes, I was. Yes.
What was your role there?
I was an elected student senator for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences.
Has that position, that role, did that help you become who you are today?
I don't think it helped me become who I was. I think I've always been a service-oriented individual. I always wanted to be in a position to provide service, to help. That's what drew me into medicine as well. And so I think I did the student senate not because I used that to help me in my career or for my volunteer work or with GISHRU, but I think it's always been an innate part of me to provide service. So it was a way to give back to my fellow students.
Were your parents actively involved in the Assyrian community? Is that something that they instilled in you growing up?
Yeah, my dad, my mom has always obviously taught us our mother tongue. My parents really drilled that into us as young kids, the importance of language. But my dad was involved in his earlier years specifically within the Chicago community with the Assyrian National Council of Illinois and with the Council for the Church as well.
At what point did you realize that you wanted to get into medicine?
There's a YouTube video floating out there of me
It's not YouTube. I think it's Facebook, and I think I'm gonna try to include that in the episode notes because it's something hilarious.
Yeah.
But I'll let you describe it.
Yeah. Well, I was 5 years old, and it was my fifth birthday, and my dad was asking everyone that was attending my birthday party what they wanted to be older, and I said I wanted to become a doctor. But I think because I saw them as role models as growing up, going to see my pediatrician, some of our family friends that are doctors. I saw them as role models, and I wanted to become like them. During this pursuit at a young age, I realized, how much I enjoyed interacting with people. I'm a people person, and I also, like I said earlier, I'm very service oriented, and I think that it was really easy to continue with a challenging path of becoming a physician.
What is something that scares you?
Losing the homeland, and I mean that in every possible definition of it. Be it exodus, be it leaving in droves, not having a future.
Do you think GISHRU has the capacity to do a GISHRU 2.0 for medical professionals who want to serve 1, 2, 3 week clinics on the ground? Is that something that you think GISHRU can take the load, or is this something where you need another organization to help coordinate?
It's our philosophy, GISHRU, and personally, as this is my belief as well, is that we should do things that's within our realm, and do that to the best of our abilities. And if we're unable to do it, then we should have other people come in to do it. And, what you said is very important. We need more initiatives in the homeland coming from the West. Not because we are better than they are, or they need a model for us to do it. It's all part of that collaboration. There's a great need there, and we have the resources that we could utilize to help the situation on the ground there. So yes, there's a need for mobile clinics and mobile pharmacies, but GISHRU right now is focusing on making this kind of crash course for our youth and young professionals. But there's a whole consortium of ideas that need to go on in the homeland, and I think we need to find the right people to do it. Mm-hmm. But right now we don't have plans because we're still trying to perfect our own trip and our own experiences. But I mean, Peter, we could have an entire episode just talking about all the things that needs to be done. Again, none of them are original. Yeah. You just have to look at Armenia and Israel. I think those are the two closest countries that we could learn a lot from, because they've had this before and they've overcome it. I think there's nothing wrong to learn from these communities and apply their solutions that they've been able to come up with for our own case. How
do you, as Joe Danavi, stay sane? Do you have a morning routine, or do you practice mindfulness? What keeps you going? Because you are busy in your professional life. You're a cardiology fellow, and you have extracurricular activities within the community, within the Assyrian community.
I think as busy professionals, all of us, I think it's really important to have time with the family. I think everyone's family is that recharge station. Not only is it good for yourself personally, but you're also connecting with the people that love you unconditionally. And so my outlet and my sanity is, hanging out with my parents, hanging out with my brother and sister, my nephew. Look forward to seeing them on the weekends. That's what kind of brings me down. Avoiding to, neglect some of the most important things in our life. It's our family. No matter how busy you are, no matter how successful you become, the last thing you should do is neglect your family, and when you do, you'll find that you may become insane, to say the least.
I'm glad you brought up family. You and I are very close friends. We've known each other for at least, I want to say, a little less than 15 years or so. Throughout the years, you've shared with me, and I've even had the pleasure of meeting your grandfather. And he, by way of you told me stories of his experience of the genocide, the Assyrian genocide, and the impact it's had. And he lived a long life.
Yeah, we were fortunate.
How much of an influence was he on your life? What was his influence on your life?
Yeah, he had an amazing influence on my life. I mean, he was my connection before GISHRU to the homeland. He was the tangible connection to the good things of our history and some of the most horrific things in our history. And it was embodied in one person, you know. And so I learned so much from him. What he went through and his family went through during the genocides, you know, of 1915. You know, he was 5 years old at the time when it started. And then what he had gone through, the perseverance within Iraq, you know, within the creation of modern day Iraq, and the hope that he had to stay there. And then he saw that, you know, there's so much discrimination that he didn't see a future for their kids. He had this love for Syrian research. As a young kid, I would remember going to visit him, and he would just be sitting amongst his shelves of books, reading, writing everything about Assyrians. And I think that really had a big effect on me.
Yeah.
That I know that this guy has seen the worst things that happen in our nation, and he was able to still continue with his passion. That genocide did not take that away from him.
Yeah.
And he told me something very important that I've never forgotten. And this is coming from a genocide survivor. He said that the most important thing you could have in your life is education. He said, because that is one thing that no one could take from you.
Sure.
They could take your house, they could take all your belongings. They could strip you of your degrees, they could strip you of jobs and everything, but they can never take away what you've learned in education. And that really kind of propelled me through my heart. My toughest points in medical school and training is that I'm doing this for a cause that will be with me forever, right?
Sure.
No one can take that away from me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and unfortunately his story is just a cycle, right? I mean, all our families have gone through that genocide, especially us in the diaspora, exodus, leaving. And then we're seeing the cycle again repeat. Now, there's more of my grandfathers now in Syria, in Nino Plains. People like my grandfather in 1915 occurred again in 2014.
Right, with ISIS.
With ISIS, and especially in Syria and Nino Plain. So that cycle is just repeating.
Do you see yourself, and I know that you say the only hope for our nation is to sustain the roots that we have. One way of sustaining roots is to have a reverse exodus. Do you really believe that there could be a reverse exodus, perhaps with this generation?
Well, we have two people already. I mean, from GISHRU to proudly say, like Susie Yonan and Melinda Khobiar, they're in the homeland. Mm-hmm. They're working there. They're living and working there.
Yeah.
Melinda, born in the U.S. She's living her prime years in Atra. So I think of course it's possible. Again, it's all about the perception of having a future. Once people have that perception, yes, I could live here. Yes, this is someplace I could raise a family. Of course, why not? This is your homeland. Why would people not want to go there?
Right.
It's a beautiful, beautiful country. Take everything about nationalism out of this. Mm-hmm. It really is a beautiful country.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's scenic. I mean, you have the Alps there, right? You know, you have a beautiful valley there. You have everything. It's a gorgeous country, and it's yours. Yes, the situation there is not the best, but it's improving, and we have a large part to do with it, that we could help. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there can be a return. And again, we don't have to be original. There's other communities that have done the very same. Just a few countries over in Israel.
Earlier this year in January, you, me, and Dr. Elmer Abbo, embarked on a trip to London. And the trip was mainly to go see the Ashurbanipal exhibit at the British Museum. As you're walking into the exhibit, and I believe, was it your first time at the British Museum?
No, I've been there when I was younger.
As you're walking in and gazing at the Ashurbanipal reliefs, give us a kind of an introspective look into your feelings, your emotions, things that you're seeing for the first time, the amount of respect that these people have, and the amount of work that has gone into this exhibit.
It's bittersweet. You know, I don't think I think the best place for for those artifacts is in the homeland. It's a colonial thing. They basically took everything out of our countries and display it there. But at the same time, it's bittersweet because without their excavations and preservations and housing them in a much more stable environment, they might have been lost forever. We saw what happened to Nimrud in Nineveh when ISIS destroyed it, reduced it to rubble. So yeah, walking through there, it was a lot of those kind of feelings swirling around me. But overall, just again, it's looking at the grandeur of a history and the responsibility that falls upon all our shoulders to make sure this nation continues and persists. I mean, those were definitely our glory days, and they're very, very long ago. And I think every Syrian's always proud. They take their friends or they tell them about all the achievements and accomplishments and the grandeur of Assyria. Sure, I'm proud of that, and you're proud. We all should be proud. But I think the bigger question is, what are we doing now to uphold that pride? What are we doing now for this nation to continue? Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure our ancestors would want it to.
Yeah. What's something people seem to misunderstand about Joe Danavi?
I think it depends where or who you're asking.
Why is that?
I think when we're in Atra, I think it's me not speaking the best Assyrian. There's sometimes there's some miscommunication. Yeah. I try my best and read and write at maybe a third grade level. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's different based on what I'm joking, but essentially in Atra it's completely different than what it is here. But I think for our listeners, I think the biggest misconception, to at least, is that I'm a full-time activist. Yeah. And I think that really is a description for a lot of our activists. I think we're all full-time engineers, full-time cardiologists, full-time marketing specialists, and using our free time for advocacy.
What are you curious about right now?
Buying land and a house in Ankawa. Especially from our recent trip. I've been thinking about that ever since I left. Yeah, I'm really curious about it. I really want to. And we had that panel that talked about investments and property purchase in Iraq and in our Atra. So I've been thinking about that ever since, because we really need to start going to the second step. Mm-hmm. I've been to Atra 5 times already. How much more times am I going just as a visitor? Yeah.
I think one thing that I noticed when I was there is that people talk about from the West. Let's go start a business there. I want to go start a business there. But from going 2 times to visit, I feel as though, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel as though the person who is proposing that business needs to be on the ground, operating on the ground. It's not this thing where from a distance or proxy, at least in the beginning, to get the business up and running.
I also think it's based on scale. It's the scale of your business. Are you running a mom and pop shop like a restaurant, or are you, already have a pretty well-established business in the diaspora and you want to start running it there as well? So I don't think necessarily you have to be there. And don't forget, you have Assyrians living there. They could always be your extension in the homeland, your business opportunity. So yeah, it all depends on the scale of your business, but it's definitely an opportunity, and I don't think many Assyrians have taken that, as we've seen.
I know some of our Chicago listeners will relate to this. I try to visit Chicago during the summers, but when I do come here, I see billboards outside of Jewish synagogues. Signs. I think it's 3%, 4%, 5%. It's some sort of tithing back to the community, back to the motherland.
It's their will.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so they're basically advertising for their community to put in their will when they pass to leave a percentage of their estate to the Jewish fund. Yeah,
to causes.
Yeah. If there's a concerted effort within our community, I think that's totally doable. We could easily do that. Again, it goes back to the thing of us not having to be original. I think that's a great observation that you made, and a possible implementation within our community. It goes without saying that we need to be collaborating on this as a community as a whole. So this requires our churches, our civic institutions, our organizations all to come together and be like, yes, we need to have this general fund where we will use to not only send back to the homeland, but also build up our institutions here. I think that would be great. But again, I think it requires us to be much more collaborative as a community.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back to the topic of GISHRU. Although I've known you for many years, I know you're a doctor, I personally don't want to talk medicine with you because I think that Joe Danavi medicine is your vocation, right? You identify with medicine as being your vocation, your everyday.
Yeah, of course.
But that does not define who Joe Danavi is.
A part of me.
It's a part of you.
Yeah, it describes a part of me, correct.
When people ask me, what is your favorite part about the trip? And by trip, I mean the 2 weeks we spend on GISHRU. I always tell them that it's the schools. Mm. How do you feel when you walk into the schools that are teaching every subject, the majority of subjects? They have courses in English and Arabic, the actual language itself, not subject courses. How do you feel walking into listening and reading curriculum that is all in Assyrian?
Our future is very bright. That's what I think of. Our future is very bright. Mm. And there'll be better leaders than we are. Those schools really is our window into our future.
Yeah.
So once those schools cease to exist, or we don't have any kids filling those chairs, those desks, then we know we don't have a future. As long as those seats and those desks are filled, we have a future. So so that's what I feel like.
What is one question that I should have asked you that I have not asked you up until this point?
Is there anything besides GISHRU that you do? So far, it's been like 90% GISHRU.
I know, but I feel part of the reason is that we have connected on different paths of our lives. Obviously both of us know each other, but our friendship, I don't want to say flourished or grew, but then we were able to experience the homeland together. Mm. So maybe that's why. It's not some sort of...
No, honestly, I'm honored. I mean, if they just know Joe as GISHRU, I'll be a very, very happy person, because it's such a great program that we implemented, and it's not innovative. It's not innovative at all. Other communities have done this program, and we found a need in our community because it wasn't being done to do it. But yeah, I'm more than honored that you considered this as a GISHRU interview.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a softball or this could be a good plug actually for what's to come.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Assyrian Policy Conference that happened in Washington, D.C. last year. Mm-hmm. And then tell me about the upcoming policy conference that was postponed, but that you're currently working on.
Yeah, so, going back to the question that I wanted you to pose me, what other things do you do besides GISHRU within communities? I serve as the chair of education for the Assyrian American National Federation. The Assyrian National Policy Conference, even though it's a product of the Assyrian American National Federation, it is exactly what we were talking about earlier, about getting our communities to be in synergy. Having a conference in DC so we could amplify the need in the homeland while training the next generation's leaders. That's essentially what the Assyrian National Policy Conference is getting our advocacy in sync with the homeland, building up the diaspora, and training the next generation of leaders. Because the entire policy conference is education. People are learning about the issues going on in the homeland, the potential solutions, hearing from academics in our community, and the most critical point of the conference, because without this component, this conference could be done anywhere, but the reason why it's done in DC is to teach civic responsibility and engagement with your elected officials, with our elected officials. And in a way, that's you're able to persuade them. So succinct, persuasive, kind of like what we call the elevator pitch. Because these people have very short attention spans, not because they're not interested in our issues, but you have to imagine there's hundreds of other people doing the same thing to them on a daily basis.
When you talk to electeds at the federal level, congressmen, congresswomen, congress members, senators, what is the ask? What is the dialogue?
You always want something simple. Like, you don't want to make things very complicated. So you want to do a simple, something that's achievable. It's kind of like the low-hanging fruits. You want something that's within their jurisdiction. So our previous ask last year was asking them to join the Syrian caucus. That's something that's easy, it's doable, doesn't have that many responsibilities. Just getting them to be part of an Assyrian caucus. One of our other asks was to provide oversight to U.S. aid, to make sure the money, the billions of dollars that U.S. aid is spending in Iraq is going to the right people. And that's especially important since there's a high degree of corruption within Iraq. And our ask was having them provide oversight and giving them explanation on that this money should be going to local organizations, local NGOs on the ground that are operating of our people. So those were the asks for last year's AMPC. We're still working on that on the agenda for this year's.
What was the attendance like last year? What was the energy? What was the vibe? What was the feedback?
I mean, imagine a room, not a room, it was many rooms, but imagine an arena filled with like-minded individuals, people that are deeply interested in the future of our nation, that are willing to come all the way to DC, learn about all the issues facing on the homeland, and advocating for it. I mean, these are people that are just like yourself. And so, yeah, it's a very powerful conference, not only because of the program, but because of the individuals that participated. And we want that to grow. And that's American, and that's the Assyrian American National Federation for you. It really has come a long ways from what it was before. And I'm not talking about from when it's first started, but I'm talking about for the past 20 years. There's definitely a new generational shift within the Assyrian American National Federation towards quality programming that's in sync with the homeland.
What is one thing that you failed at?
Stopping the infighting.
What was that?
Stopping the infighting.
Within our community.
Not our community, but within our community's activists and organizers.
We're all working towards one goal.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I think the vast majority, I can't say that. I think nearly everybody that's an Assyrian activist in the diaspora believes in the same thing. Maybe the details may differ, but the end result is the same. The goal that we're striving for is the same. But unfortunately, our disagreements are always based on that 1 or 2 percentages of fine detail that's causing the hurdles amongst us.
What would you say to some of our Assyrian academics, advocates, intelligentsia, people that want to get involved for the cause? What would you say to them who are on the sidelines, that are looking from the sidelines, that want to get in or don't, or are hesitant?
Come on, GISHRU. Experience the homeland. You'll get to experience it with people that are just like yourself. They really want to help our nation. They don't know which way yet. They don't know with whom yet. And that's why we have this trip. Because not only do you find out the why, what, when, how, but you also, most importantly, you find out the who. And that is not only people that you want to help in the homeland, but also who you want to work with. This is a 2-week experience. You really, really get to know people very well. Yeah. Because it's such a vulnerable time.
Very much so. Vulnerable in terms of the group, your...
emotions.
Yeah.
You're seeing some things for the very first time.
Close quarters. There are times that are uncomfortable.
Yeah, so I would say if you're on the sidelines and you want to join and you want to help and you don't know how to do it, come on GISHRU for 2 weeks. It's like a baptism. You'll feel a renewal. You'll find answers for some questions that you have been pondering about for most of your life. And it cuts through all the noise and the distractions in our communities at large. The things between our civic organizations, our churches, that all just becomes kind of just fades into the background, because that big picture finally comes in plain sight. You really realize what's important, and you're thankful to forget those things that are not important.
Yeah.
That may have been consuming or causing some drama.
I think for me, and I've mentioned this before, but there's a song that Ashur Beserges sings, Ya Sara.
You want to sing it for us?
No. I'll do that another time for my beloved listeners, those who like me as a co-host. But the song Ya Sara is a song about the singer. The poet is singing about the diaspora. He sees the moon is greeting him, and the singer is asking the moon how his village is, how his homeland is, how his friends are, how his family is, and how his house is. And so I would listen to the song.
يا صار ميكاتيلوخ لدها أطرى داخي أبطيلوخ هنزتوخ كمن مخنية صلت خبق النوب بصدري هرقدية بأرقلي من خشد بشتا كلا خليتي دمختا ينرشتا منطيلي الخوبة الشمشوخ خد قلبك يخرشها بيرد رمشوخ القرب ترابولا ظن الصنخيروني نص الدولة انترين رباتي بجرى يفشني ونشرت عطر ببناية حني اجهت الخبرة كابورة دارا أدنونت عطر لآتي التمارا
Pre-GISHRU, and it was black and white. And then, the song was amazing, but then I went to Iraq, and then I heard the song, and then I sang the song there, and it has a whole new meaning to it. Like you are one with the singer, with the poet, because you really understand the struggle that the poet went through to craft this song, and the style and the emotion that Ashur Beserges put in to singing the song. And so by you saying that if there's someone on the sidelines to come on this trip, I could definitely affirm that if there's someone on the sidelines, and this is the trip for you. And I know this episode is like a GISHRU plug, but essentially this is the Assyrian podcast, and at least my goal is to reestablish a bigger Assyrian presence in northern Iraq. Start a reverse exodus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all a responsibility. It's so gratifying too. I mean, it's a huge relief, like when you go and experience it.
Hypothetically, you have a year sabbatical. If you can write any book, any topic, any subject, what would it be on that year sabbatical?
Sabbatical? Any time off? Menshula?
Yeah.
Well, I will need you to talk to my program director to get a sabbatical in the first place. But if I were to get a sabbatical, which is non-existent within any training program, I'm an activist at heart, so it would be something about Assyrians, and it would be within my philosophy is that two things: one, that we don't have to be original or creative to be innovative for our community, and two, we need to do a better job of infiltrating NGOs, government agencies for the betterment of our community. So it would be a book about those two things.
Can you expand on NGOs for listeners?
Like what they are?
What they are, their function, what the acronym stands for.
Yeah, so non-governmental organizations, there are many powerful non-for-profit organizations that receive millions upon millions of dollars from the government to basically distribute in the form of aid. Again, not all NGOs are the same. I'm just talking about specific to our situation right now in the Nino Plain. And I think one idea that we should be sharing amongst our community is, these are really good jobs to have, even as a career, and you could make such a huge difference for your people as a coordinator in one of these NGOs. Instead of us spending all this money and time on lobbying, which for the past 20 years that I've seen have gone absolutely nowhere, such a waste of time and effort. Imagine if we spent all this time and effort into getting young Assyrians into these NGO offices, into governmental agencies. Imagine what impact that could have on our people. And so I think we need to do this shift from begging to infiltrating. Get in.
I like that you used the word infiltrating.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't use that when you're applying for these positions. but essentially, get into these into this career, into this non-for-profit career. You get to help out. I mean, there's nothing better than doing what you love as a career. And so, if you're able to help out your community and get paid for it, why not?
Absolutely.
And it's not like you're doing a charitable deed. You're getting paid.
Especially listeners out there that have a background in public policy, international development, humanitarian studies, foreign policy, foreign affairs, even law, psychology.
Yes.
And NGOs in Iraq are hiring. Don't let a language barrier like Arabic or Kurdish deter you from applying, because both Susie and Melinda don't know Arabic or Kurdish.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, but this is something that we should be pushing in our community. Yeah, we want all our kids to become doctors and engineers, but really, I think this is even better than that. Getting involved in these NGOs and these governmental agencies around the world that are focused on essentially giving aid into the Middle East, you can make a huge impact, not only for your own career, but also for our people.
Yeah.
Because we finally have an advocate inside. It's so much better than trying to be on the outside. And knocking on doors just like everyone else that's just trying to. And looking at our own history, we've not been successful, ever.
Joe, we have listeners from all over the world. What are your last words? What wisdom would you like to impart? What advice, encouragement?
Speaking from my own experience, it'll be find a partner. I think that's so important. It's in anything in life. I truly believe humans, we are a very social being, and we thrive in a social environment. And I've seen myself, after I found my own partner, Renia, that my productivity for our community, and it's not only for our community, even in my career, has been so much better. She's been such an amazing positive influence on my life. I say she's really my stuni, my foundation, and I to her. I'm not trying to take all the credit, but I mean, but it's mutualistic.
Yeah.
And I truly, if I could give a lasting advice, is really find your partner. I think that's so important, and especially in this day and age, especially when we try to be these multitaskers, which humans are horrible multitaskers.
Sure.
We're all trying to carry all these different hats on. It's nice to have someone with you at all times, kind of giving you continuous feedback. And so it's been a life changer for me. The best decision I've made. It's also for our community. GISHRU has been so much better with us on it, and hopefully you as well.
Thank you.
And then of course, probably the lasting thing, the most important thing, is experience GISHRU. It really could open a lot of doors for you. It opened a lot for me.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks again for being on the Assyrian podcast.
Thank you, Peter. It's always a pleasure to talk with you on and off the microphone.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Assyrian podcast. If you like what you are hearing, please subscribe and review us wherever you listen to us. You can also help us by spreading the word about the Assyrian podcast to your family and friends. Thanks, and see you all next week.